smoke in a small room, those are the ones who say nothing, but change everything. Let me ask you something, kid. When did the pain finally shut you up? Not when it hurt the first time. No. It's when you kept explaining yourself, kept begging them to understand your worth, kept giving, fixing, hoping, and they kept taking. And one day, you just stopped. That silence, that's when your power started, and their fear began. Because now they don't know what you're thinking, what you're planning, or who the hell you're becoming. And that scares them more than all your screaming ever did. You were loud before. They laughed. You cried. They pitied you. But now you don't speak. You don't react. You just exist. And they hate it. Because your presence has become a storm they can't predict. And humans? Oh, they fear what they can't control. You spent years explaining yourself to people who already made up their mind about you. How tragic is that, huh? You sat there trying to convince them you were loyal, good, worth it, while they were already plotting your replacement. What a joke. You bent till you cracked just to prove your heart was real in a world that treats kindness like a damn weakness. They took you for granted, not because you weren't enough, but because they were too empty to recognize value when it stood right in front of them. But you're different now, ain't you? You got tired of dancing for people who don't even know the rhythm of loyalty. You got tired of begging for love from people who couldn't even spell sacrifice. So you shut up, you ghosted, you pulled back. And now they're confused. They keep checking if you're mad, if you're broken, if you still care. But you don't. You just sit back and watch them fall into the silence they forced you into. That, my friend, is the loudest revenge you'll ever serve. Cold, clean, and in full control. People only ask, what's wrong? When you stop giving them what they had no right to in the first place. Ain't that the punchline? You were the lifeline to people who would have let you drown. You were the healer to people who caused the wounds. And now they act shocked that you've gone quiet? Funny. See, when a kind soul hardens, the world don't know how to react. They only loved you when you were soft and pliable. Now that you've got a spine stitched with fire and silence, they tremble because they can't gaslight silence. They can't twist your words when you don't say them. They can't guilt trip you when you don't board their damn train. You became a ghost they see in daylight, and that's what drives them insane. You didn't disappear, you evolved. And evolution looks like silence, discipline, focus, and the kind of presence that makes the whole room uneasy without you saying a damn word. That's power, kid. That's legacy. That's you. Finally taking the mask off and the leash. And you know what's even darker, even sadder than the silence you built? It's the realization that they never really cared to listen in the first place. You could have shouted the truth till your throat bled, and they still would have heard what they wanted to hear. That's the curse of the real ones. We speak love fluently, while they're out here speaking survival. They don't connect, they collect. And when you ain't useful no more, when your pain ain't entertaining, and your loyalty ain't convenient, they vanish. But when you vanish, oh, suddenly there's an echo in every room they walk into. Suddenly your absence feels louder than your presence ever did. 'Cause what they really miss ain't you, it's the benefits. The version of you that kept showing up for people who'd never walk through fire for you. And when that version of you died, so did their control. You became a ghost, not by fading, but by waking up. And in this sick little world, the awake are always feared. 'Cause once your eyes open, their lies start rotting right in front of you. You were the type to over-explain just to stop someone from misunderstanding your silence. You broke your own back to carry people who were digging your grave while riding on your shoulders. And when you stopped, they said you changed. Nah. You just stopped protecting people from the consequences of betraying you. And here's the part that twists the knife. They'll never admit they lost a good soul. Instead, they'll paint you bitter, cold, heartless, anything but wiser. 'Cause admitting they lost you, that would mean facing what they did. And cowards don't look in mirrors that reflect their damage. They run, they hide, they distract. But you became the quiet truth in a world addicted to noise. You became the shadow that reminds them of everything they took and never gave back. And now every time they laugh, there's an itch in the back of their skull. A whisper, a memory. You, not the version they abused, but the version they can never reach again. That, kid, is when your silence becomes a sentence. And they're the ones serving time. You ever realize how the people who told you to be strong were the first ones who ran when you got weak? Yeah, let that sink in. You thought they'd be there forever, but forever to them just meant until it's no longer easy. So, when the mask cracked, when your hands started shaking and your voice broke, they vanished. But the silence you gave them afterward, that's the part they didn't expect. They thought you'd crawl back, explain, apologize, try again. But you didn't. You vanished. No dramatic exits. No, watch what I'll become. Just gone. And that silence, it became a prison for them. 'Cause now they wonder what you're building, who you're becoming. What version of you will come back? And if they'll even recognize it. You stopped being predictable. You stopped being soft. And for the first time, you became dangerous. Not 'cause you're violent, not 'cause you want revenge, but because you finally understand the value of your energy. You finally stopped wasting fire on people who only wanted your warmth. And now that you're not burning for them anymore, they're freezing. This world don't reward kindness. It tests it. It breaks it. It sees how much it can take before you become unrecognizable. And you pass that test the hard way. You lost yourself trying to save people who didn't even know they were drowning you. You stayed loyal in rooms where your name got dragged the moment you walked out. You gave more chances than God might have given you. And when you finally got tired, when the kindness turned to silence, suddenly you became the villain. Ain't that a punchline? The same people who broke you now afraid of the pieces you gathered in the dark. But you didn't become a monster. Number you became a mirror. And now, when they look at you, all they see is the reflection of who they really were. That's why they flinch when you walk in. That's why they get quiet when you make eye contact. They feel your silence, like glass under their feet. And the best part? You don't even have to lift a finger. You just exist, quietly, powerfully, unapologetically. That's the kind of presence that haunts people long after you leave the room. They'll start saying you changed, but not one of them will mention what they did to you. Not one of them will talk about the lies, the backhanded compliments, the way they used your silence like a doormat and your heart like a test subject. They won't admit how they drained you, made you doubt your own worth, turned your loyalty into a leash around your neck. Instead, they'll sit there, comfortable in their little bubbles of denial, telling stories about how you just switched up. Like you woke up one day and decided to burn every bridge for fun. Truth is, they lit the fire themselves. You just stopped putting it out. You stopped begging, stopped explaining, stopped handing out forgiveness to people who used your pain like a punching bag. And now the silence you carry is the consequence they thought they'd never face. It eats at them because they know they lost something pure, something real, and worst of all, they know they can't replace it. You became irreplaceable the moment you walked away without making a scene. And deep down, that kills them more than anything you could have screamed. You see, silence is dangerous when it comes from someone who used to explain everything. When you used to pour your soul into people, and now you just nod. They notice. When you used to defend yourself, cry, justify, care, and now you just walk away with a blank face. That's the kind of change that burns memories into their conscience. 'Cause you weren't just a name in their life. You were a lesson. A chapter they skipped till the exam came, and now they're failing it. And the worst part for them? You didn't need revenge. You didn't need to ruin their reputation or expose them. You just let karma and distance do the dirty work. That's the kind of revenge only the wise serve. Silence mixed with success. You became so untouchable, they can't even talk about you without feeling the sting of what they lost. That's what happens when you glow in the dark, kid. When your light ain't for sale, and your presence no longer asks for permission. You turned your pain into poise, your weakness into weaponry. And now they tremble at the sound of your name, not because you said anything, but because you don't have to anymore. It's funny, isn't it? How they say they miss you after they realize you're not coming back. Not the real you, at least. Not the one who gave and gave until there was nothing left to give. What they really miss is the access, the open door, the way you made them feel like royalty while they treated you like background noise. They miss the version of you that sacrificed sleep, peace, and self-respect just to keep people happy, who wouldn't flinch if you were suffering. They miss the comfort you gave them, but now that comfort's gone, and in its place, distance, silence, and the heavy weight of your absence. You gave your all to people who would have stepped over your broken body just to get to someone shinier. But when you disappear, when you stop playing the fool and start acting like the king you were always meant to be, oh, now they want to remember your worth. But it's too late. You're not coming back with explanations or apologies. You're coming back with a presence so powerful, they feel it without hearing a word. And that's the scariest thing about a person who's been broken and chose to rebuild in silence. And listen, I know it hurts. I know there are nights where you lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every damn moment, trying to figure out what you could have done differently. You ask yourself, was I too much? Was I not enough? Did I push him away? But here's the truth that'll burn, then heal. You were too real for people who weren't even real with themselves. You were deep in a world of shallow swimmers, and instead of drowning trying to save them, you finally let yourself float. You let go. And that's what changed everything. They didn't deserve the version of you that fought for people like a soldier with no armor. And the day you walked away without a sound, that was the day you won a war they didn't even know they started. You didn't lose them, kid. They lost you. They lost someone who would have stood through fire and blood and betrayal. And they'll never find that kind of loyalty again. So, now, let the silence do what your words never could. Let your presence, the one they feel even when you're not around, be the ghost that reminds them what they'll never have again. And the saddest part, the part that creeps in during those quiet moments when the world finally shuts up and your own thoughts come crawling back, it's that deep down, you didn't want revenge. You didn't want to become colder. You just wanted reciprocation. You wanted someone to look at you the way you looked at them, with depth, with care, with some damn truth. But life doesn't hand that out evenly. Some people give oceans, others don't even know how to hold a cup of water. And you were the ocean. You flooded every room you stepped into with loyalty, with fire, with protection. And they were tourists. They dipped their toes in you, took pictures, laughed, and walked away when the tide got high. And when you stopped showing up, when the waves went silent and the current disappeared, that's when they realized they were never swimming. They were drowning in you. in your value, in your consistency. But they took it all for granted. And now you've become the storm on the horizon they can't escape, not because you're chasing them, number. You're just there, watching, silent, untouchable. That's the new you. The you that don't beg anymore. The you that lets your silence scream everything they refused to hear when you were speaking from the heart. It's brutal, ain't it? This world teaches you that silence is peace. But first, it drags you through a war just to understand what peace costs. And it ain't cheap. You had to lose people you loved with every fiber of your being. You had to let go of people who were still breathing but dead to your soul. You had to sit in your own darkness, swallow your pride, bury your old self without a funeral, and still smile like nothing's wrong. But that's what growth looks like when you're built different. It ain't pretty. It ain't inspirational quotes on a sunset background. It's ugly. It's painful. It's nights full of questions and days full of silence. But through it all, you rise. Slower, yes, but stronger. And now your presence walks ahead of you like a shadow in broad daylight. People feel you before they even see you. Why? 'Cause you carry silence the same way others carry fear. With weight. With purpose. With authority. And trust me, when the world sees that in you, they shift. They get nervous. Because your silence ain't just quiet, it's loud in every room where fake love once lived. You ever seen someone avoid your eyes, even when they're talking about something else entirely? That's guilt, kid. That's fear, wrapped in denial. That's what you've become, a walking reminder of their betrayal. You don't even have to speak their name. Your silence does it for you. It echoes in their mind every time they laugh too loud or lie too easily. You're the mirror they can't smash, the truth they can't bury. And that's what makes you dangerous now. You ain't playing by their rules anymore. You don't chase, don't explain, don't perform. You just exist, sharper, colder, clearer, and they'll hate you for it. Not because you did them wrong, but because you stopped letting them do you wrong. You cut the cycle, you cut the access, and now they sit there wondering if someone else gets the version of you they killed. Let them wonder. Let that be their punishment. Your growth is not meant to be palatable for those who fed off your weakness. It's meant to sting, like truth, like karma, like the silence of a man who no longer owes the world an explanation for choosing peace over people. You're not heartless. You're just finally sick of watching people treat your love like an option. You're not cold. You just finally learned to protect your warmth. And this new version of you, the one that sits in silence while everyone else scrambles for validation, that's the one they'll remember. Not the one who stayed up all night overthinking. Not the one who kept reaching out just to be ignored. They'll remember the one who stopped talking and started building. The one who looked around realized no one was truly riding for him, and picked up the bricks and built a kingdom alone. You became your own savior, and the silence you wear now, it's not empty, it's earned, it's heavy, it's filled with lessons, scars, self-respect, and it's deadly to those who think they can manipulate you the way they used to. You don't raise your voice anymore because now your silence does the talking. And guess what? They're listening. Every single day. You ever wonder why they watch your every move now, even though they claimed you didn't matter? Why they stalk in silence, eyes behind screens, ears wide open for whispers of your name, but mouths shut like they never knew you. That's what silence does. It doesn't just erase you from the noise. It etches you into their conscience. You became unforgettable by disappearing. You became a legend in the same rooms where they once made you feel replaceable. But here's the thing, they never saw coming. You didn't walk away to prove anything. You walked away because you had to. You couldn't bleed for people who kept handing you knives. You couldn't keep explaining your value to people who treated your heart like a rental. So you left. No goodbye, no final speech. Just a calm exit with fire in your chest and scars stitched shut. And now they sit with the silence. Their own. Yours. The one that feels like a scream under their skin. And they'll never say it out loud, but you became everything they feared. Untouchable, unreadable, and unstoppable. The real shift in power, it don't happen when you scream louder. It happens when you don't respond at all. When they throw dirt on your name and you keep building castles from it. When they mock your silence, but can't match your discipline. That's what power is. It's when people who thought they broke, you realize you were just getting started. You ain't playing their petty games no more. You ain't showing up to defend your name to people who never cared about it. You're walking in rooms now with a presence so thick, people get quiet. Not out of respect, but out of regret. They remember how they talked about you, laughed behind your back, questioned your worth. And now they feel stupid. 'Cause the version of you they belittled became the version they can't reach. That's the cold reality of growth. It don't come with applause. It comes with silence, distance, and a fire so focused, the ones who once distracted you can't even look you in the eyes anymore. You're not emotionless. You're just tired of performing emotional labor for people who wouldn't even flinch if you vanished. You're not rude. You're just done sugarcoating your silence to protect their comfort. And they'll try to twist it, kid. They'll say you're acting different. Say you're full of yourself. That's just guilt talking. That's just their fear, speaking through cracked egos. 'Cause the version of you that used to explain every feeling, every change, every hurt is dead. You buried him in a graveyard of fake friends and wasted chances. And from that soil, you grew into someone dangerous. Not dangerous because you hurt people, but dangerous because you see through them now. You no longer beg for closure, no longer chase clarity. You let people sit in the silence they earned, and that's lethal. That's power wrapped in peace. You learned that not every apology deserves acceptance. Not every explanation needs a reply. And not every betrayal needs revenge. Sometimes, the absence of your reaction is the loudest punishment of all. The truth is, when you were loud, when you were expressive, when you wore your heart on your sleeve, they didn't take you seriously. They saw you as weak. They mistook vulnerability for access. But when you went silent, when you disappeared into the shadows and started speaking through your actions, your success, your stillness, they panicked. 'Cause people don't fear rage. They don't fear tears. They fear the quiet rebuild. They fear the person who took all the pain, all the disrespect, and turned it into discipline. That's what you did. You turned silence into strategy. You stopped asking for understanding and started making moves that commanded. You became the ghost in the hallway, the storm before the collapse, the calm in a world addicted to chaos. And now they remember you, not by what you said, but by what you stopped saying. You became unforgettable by vanishing right in front of them. And the silence you wear now, it's the armor they can't penetrate, the weapon they can't counter. You ever sit alone and realize that all those nights you spent explaining yourself, all those messages, long paragraphs, tears behind screens, were for people who never really heard you? That all your honesty, your loyalty, your raw vulnerability wasn't met with understanding, but with silence, indifference, maybe even mockery behind closed doors. That kind of betrayal don't leave scars. It leaves voids, deep ones that echo when everything else is quiet. But here's the truth, the one that burns before it heals. They were never built to understand you. You spoke from a heart stitched with realness, and they spoke from ego, from temporary emotions, from impulse. You showed up with history, vision, commitment, and they showed up with curiosity, with hunger, with nothing to lose. They were tourists in your soul. You were a damn home they never planned to stay in. And when you finally stopped explaining, when the door closed and the lights dimmed, that's when they realized they weren't just leaving someone. They were being erased from a place that once made them feel whole. You see, silence isn't just about not talking. It's a message. It's an announcement with no words. It says, I'm not here for the games anymore. It says, I know who I am now, and I won't prove it to people who don't care to know it. Silence is you telling the world that your value ain't up for debate, that your energy is no longer on discount. And they hate that. They hate when the one they took for granted stops dancing for their attention. stops apologizing for feeling too much, stops lowering his standards just to keep broken people company. And they'll call it arrogance. They'll call it pride. But deep down, they know what it is. It's power. It's you reclaiming yourself. It's you choosing peace over their chaos. And the best part? You don't even have to defend it. 'Cause your growth speaks volumes. Your silence carries weight. And every step you take without them shakes the very ground they stand on. Because they finally realize they lost someone they can't replace, can't mimic, can't even describe to others without revealing how badly they messed up. And maybe you still replay it sometimes. Maybe you wonder if you could have saved it, if one more conversation would have changed anything. That's the trauma talking. That's the echo of a heart that gave too much. But let me tell you, you didn't lose them. They lost you. You didn't walk away because you stopped caring. You walked away because they never started. And when someone keeps showing you who they are over and over again, and you finally believe it, that's not giving up. That's growth. That's strength. That's survival. You finally learned to stop begging for love where loyalty ain't native. You finally saw through the smiles that were always looking past you. And now, you move different. You walk lighter, but your presence is heavier. You say less, but they hear everything. That's the irony of pain. It sharpens your silence. And that silence, it's now your crown, worn with dignity, with patience, with scars turned into strategy. Look around you now. See the way they mention your name with caution, the way they check your stories, your steps, your life, quietly. That's fear. That's the kind of fear that grows when someone realizes the person they dismissed became someone their mind can't let go of. You became the mystery, the one who stopped sharing, stopped explaining, and just started moving, quiet, calculated, consistent. You turned every heartbreak into bricks. Every betrayal into blueprint. And you started building, not to flex, not to prove anything, but because you owed it to yourself. You gave so much to people who only came to collect, and now you give to yourself. You invest in silence, in structure, in truth, and they see it. Oh, they see it. Even in the silence, your presence haunts the space you used to fill. They see what they lost, and worse, they see that you don't need them anymore. That's when they fear you. When you don't even hate them, you just don't speak their language anymore. You know what really terrifies them now? It's not that you're gone. It's that you're fine without them. That you're breathing without their validation. Standing tall without their applause. Thriving without their hand on your shoulder. That's the nightmare. Because they were so sure you'd collapse when they walked away. So sure you'd beg. So sure you'd chase. They thought they were the sun in your sky, the oxygen in your lungs. But they forgot one small detail. You were built in the dark. You were built in nights full of overthinking and mornings where you had to drag yourself out of bed with a soul that felt like dead weight. You were built through silence, through pain, through fake smiles and clenched fists. So when they left, or when you finally let them leave, they didn't take anything from you. They just freed space for the version of you that didn't need saving. And that version, that's the one that doesn't talk much, doesn't need to. He walks in silence, but his presence screams